Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Welcome to Chirpy4Jesus. And if you're new here or you have been here already and you have seen my 2 videos that I put up but I deleted, I just want to say thank you for the support and thank you for being here again. Alright, so my name is Donette Morris for those who are new, and I am married now for 4 years. I have an almost 2-year-old child, and I'm also a university student, right? So yes, this is about me. And of course, you know, my channel is basically about Jesus in an essence, how it is that we not only talk about him but practically live in him, right? And there are so many things today out there to distract us, to slow us down, to stop us. And I think one of my challenge was most of the things that I did go through in my life as a young Christian. I was always wondering, does this happen to others? Until I started having honest conversation and I started realizing that nothing that is happening to you or is happening to me is basically new to anybody. All right, so if you're following the channel and you looked on the title, you'd see what we're talking about today, right? And if you're not married, don't worry, this is not only a married session, but I think this would be more for persons who have not yet been married and you're thinking about taking the next step, right? So as the title says, or in an essence what it is saying is things that people do not talk about whenever you're about to get married. The reality to marriage that nobody wants to talk about. And that's what we are going to talk about today, right? So let's go in it. Number one thing that people never talk about is how opposite does not always attract when you enter the marriage. And let's talk about what I mean. So everybody know the little popular saying that says opposite attracts, right? And most time people talk about a male and a female and that they're the only person that can produce. Sometimes people look on batteries, how it is that you put batteries in something for it to work. And you know that if you put the two flat together, then you basically won't get anything out of it, right? And so people have it to say that opposites attracts. And while it is that I agree with that somewhat, I can also say that there are so many challenges that comes after opposite attracts. And one of the things I think with human beings is that we're always looking for leverage in our life. So if you are let's say an introvert, you know, the person that you might want to align yourself with might be somebody who, you know, speaks up, is, you know, a little bit more friendly than you are, somebody who is basically opposite of you. And we like leverage, right? And that is the reason why most of us, when we're going to get married, we don't really find persons who have, you want similar traits and interests, but you don't necessarily want somebody who is like you. So if you're a hot-tempered person who likes to always talk how you feel and all of that, I mean, you won't necessarily be attracted to somebody who is like that. Sometimes you want somebody who's on the down skirt, because as human beings, we're always looking for balance. We're always looking for that person that calms you. Not, they have it to say that in a person you have somebody in you that you like to stay down, and then you have the good person that you like people to nourish and nurture into being a better person. And sometimes people will say, don't throw the demons inside of me, please nurture the good part that is inside of me. And one way how we do that, or people would say it is done, is by basically people being the opposite of what really rages what is inside of you that's not good, right? And oftentimes then it leads us in an excitement right? So for example, before you started, before you got married and you were courting, you recognize that, let's say, you were a spender, and because you're a spender, you met somebody now who loves to save money, and it attracted you. Or let's say you like to go to fancy restaurants and stuff, and you met somebody and the person is saying to you, no, you can't live your life that way, you can't do this. And you're like, wow, this person have my best interest at heart, and and it attracts. What if it is that you like going out, going different places that are keeping events and stuff, and the person is saying, no man, sometimes I must stay home, stay out of a crowd like a bit. What if you love talking to people, or you are very kind-hearted and you believe that everything you have you must give away, and then have somebody who comes in your life and the person is like, listen, no, you can't really operate that way. You have to get some sense, some knowledge into how it is that you navigate through life, how it is that you give, how much you give, and all of that. And so when you find a person who is opposite to you in every weak traits that you have, or in every area that you yourself look at and you're like, wow, that one fix up, that wants to be amended, you're like, yes, this is the person. And it appeals to you, right? And that's good. That's fine. Because that's what everybody wants. But nobody really talks about when you actually get into the marriage and opposite no longer attracts. And for those who are married, I think you get it, what I'm saying. But for those who are not married, they might be saying, what do you mean? Or no, the only thing you have to do is to compromise. I can tell you sitting here that compromising is not always easy, because sometimes in compromising, it's like, in a sense, it feels like you're stopping your own self. Like, boy, I change a person, want to change me. It's not always that easy, but of course, that is one of the solutions to what we will be talking about tonight. So let's get into it. As I did say, get into the marriage now, and you are recognizing that, wow, this is not really what I had envisioned. Or you're saying to yourself, wow, I actually thought that what I think appealed to me then would have been good for me even now, but you're in the place now where it feels wrong. Or you're at the place now where you're like, wow, I feel like I am getting, or I'm being in a position where I am not who I used to be, right? And let's talk about a practical example, which I did mention some earlier. You get into marriage now, and the person is an extrovert and you're an introvert. And when it comes to communication level, you are the person who likes to talk about what is happening. You're the person who verbalizes how you're feeling. And then the person is not like that. The person is a person who, the person doesn't really complain much. Or maybe the only time that the person will actually say something is when you kind of press that from them. That's how you get out things out of an introvert, right? And when you get into marriage, you recognize that when it comes to communication, wow, even though I'm this loud person, and even though I like to talk how it is that I feel, there are things that are happening that I would love to talk about, but because of who the person is, wow, communication is so difficult. Communication is so difficult because the person is just the opposite of who I am, right? Or let's talk about friends. What if the person, as I said earlier, doesn't like to go out, and you're a person who likes to go out? What if the person doesn't really like people at their home, and you're a person who likes friendships? You like your family around, you like going out, and you like connecting with a friend, but the person thinks that, hey, I that's not me. So you're sharing a house now where you have friends who wants to come in, and when you're married, for all the single people, you can't really have a house and people just come in. So now you're in a partnership and you're like, wow, honey, you know that, let's say Joan wants to come. Do you think Joan can come? You know, you can't just be like, yes, Joan, come. You have to communicate and say, right? But huzzy or wifey is a person who don't really like people around. Not that they hate people, but they like their own space. They like always being in a space where it's them and their family. They're comfortable that way. And as a person, you know, who likes to be around people, you're like, wow, no. And it becomes frustrating, it becomes a problem. And not only does it become a problem, when you might want to communicate it or you have communicated it, the person might drop the bomb and you're like, but you know, this is who I am. You know, this is who I am. I did not hide that. As a matter of fact, you said that you loved who I was, which was an introvert, right? So let's talk about going out. The person is a person who like to stay out. When you married the person, you knew this was how the person is. Person never hide. None of that. The person talk about it. You know. The person encourage you. Hey, stop going out. Save your money. You can't be living like this. You can't be on the run every day. So when you get in now, you're saying to yourself, all right, even though I might not go out, let's say 6 times per month, at least 3 times would have been good. But then the person does not see that as important, because the person is like, listen, maybe we're at a place where we need to be saving, or that's not a priority, right? And all of that. And you might be wondering, but that's not who I am. So what do you want me to do? Right? And so you recognize that it becomes chaotic. One of the reasons why it becomes chaotic is because, in a sense, there is something that wants you to be different, or it's calling you to a different level, or there is something that is saying to you that, hey, you know, there is something here to be addressed. And because it includes who you are, it's not going to be that nice, right? Because remember now, you know, most times, or in most cases, if you are the person that is on the opposite fence, it is that you want the person to change to you, right? And one of the things that starts happening is that you start fighting each other and not the problem. So what started as nice, as the opposite that attracts, you recognize that it starts being something that is actually fighting against who and what your marriage is supposed to be. And we could go on to many other things that happens within the opposite attracts, right? We could also talk about you know, factors too, that at the end of the day, you can say, you would say to yourself that, wow, I thought it would be easy for somebody to just say, I'll man up, I'll step up, or I will do this in order for the complications to be resolved. But you recognize that it's not that easy, right? So as I said, we could go on for many other things that we could talk about, right? I mean, you might even have your own that you're like, wow, you know, this is it for me, or, you know, this is what's happening in my space. You could go on, but the whole point to it is opposite does not always attract or stays attractive when you enter marriage, right? It calls you to a different place, right? This one I want to talk about is also, I have to talk about this one, because I mean, it would be so inappropriate not to talk about this. I talk about movies. You married somebody who likes to watch, let's say, Christian movie, and you like to watch romance movie or action movie. And when you meet the person too, you're like, wow, I want to be like that. Because this person is investing their time in Christian content. But when you get into marriage, you recognize that, wow, at least one night you can't even watch something that I like every night. Just and remember I said it can be opposite, it can be vice versa, right? And so you recognize that even when it is good for you, meaning that it is calling you to a higher place, to have a better relationship with Jesus Christ, you still recognize that it is still a challenge. It can be a challenge still, even though it even have something good to do with Christ. What if it was a case where too that the person you recognize is praying very well or has a routine of prayer, and as a couple that is joining hands together, you recognize that you kind of have the weakness there, right? And so when you got married, you're like, wow, I'm glad I have somebody who is a prayer partner. I'm happy that I have somebody who can, pray with me. But when you get into the marriage now, you recognize that, wow, it's only one person that is bringing the weight. So even though I am here, I'm praying, when I want to do it, the other person is like, want to do something else. And you recognize that the opposite does not always stays attractive when you enter. And then again, as I said, we get into this whole thing with who is not respecting whose boundary and who is not compromising and who is not changing and all of that. And so it comes to a point, what do we do? I'm in a place now where opposite, it is not attractive anymore. What do I do? And for those who are in it already, I will talk about the little solution that I think can work. And for those who are not yet married, I would say talk about it now. Talk about it now. Talk about it now. Talk about it. Have discussions about it. You like to go out, you realize your partner don't like to go out. Talk about it. You're allowed, you're an extrovert, he's an introvert. Talk about it now. You love the chicken wing, he loves the chicken back. Talk about it now. Have discussions about it now. So when you're going, at least you will have expectations, right, for what it is that you can expect. And of course, nobody is perfect. So sometimes even when you have the blueprint, it doesn't always work out how we said it, right? But for those who are married now, compromising comes into place, right? And everybody, once they're married, they kind of understand what compromising is. Compromising is, for example, you live in a house and it's one TV alone you have, and today maybe your wife says she want to watch a movie and it's not sports that she wants to watch. You say, all right, no problem. Give a person that chance, right? And then I would say the second one is scheduling time to do what both of you love, right? And you might be saying, yeah, that is a little bit apart about compromising, but that's not it for me, right? Because as I said, compromising sometimes has to do with more singular, right? So you, as I said, you can say, yeah, you can do it, no problem, that's fine. But when you're scheduling something and doing things together, it's more deep, right? Not only are you saying that, yeah, just do what it is that you want, but it's like, because you're helping the person, you're there with the person. All right, babe, you like your action movie, let's watch something of action tonight, right? All right, you like to go out. All right, we're going to go out at least twice for the month, right? Do something that you're actually doing together. So you have people in marriages that would say, all right, since you like that, you do that, right? And then the other partner was like, yeah, even though you're telling me your body language is saying something different, or your tone is communicating something different. So you don't want to be just compromising, but you want to be actually compromising and scheduling times that you're actually meeting each other demands, right? Number 3 that I would say is don't be disrespectful, right? And oftentimes it is that when you recognize that a person is not like who you are, and most times it goes for the person who I would say is in the better light. So for example, if you know that your partner is not really praying, right? And you're like, no, but you need to find some time and pray. Sometimes when something comes up, you would be like to the person, and that is the reason why you're like this, and that is the reason why God is not doing this, and that is the reason why our marriage can't progress or something. No, don't do that, right? Be thoughtful, be respectful in it, right? Say things like, you know, I kind of see you struggle. I see that you tend to spin a lot, or I tend to see that, you know, you like to go over, you like to go overboard, you go overstream. I see that you're spending too much time on social media. And work with your partner, right? How it is that you communicate with it, that is basically how it is that you will help them, right? That how it is that you communicate with them, how you show respect. I believe that is how you will actually help them, right? And of course, no marriage is perfect, right? And so while it is, my husband like to say that the grafting part of a marriage is one of the most difficult part, and happy are those who endure grafting, because when you're through, it's going to be a very beautiful plant, right? So of course, as I said, these are just little nuggets that, you know, can be done. And I am so certain that above everything else, keeping prayer in your family, praying together, being as a family, you know, talking about what it is that is really happening and the things that are really frustrating, your expectations and what you thought would have happened, what you don't think would have happened, having discussions about all of that. I am so sure that even if opposite comes to not being attractive, I am so certain that in due time, you will get a hang of it, you will get to understand each other more, and you'll get to work better together. So until we see you again, peace out. And remember, be chirpy for Jesus.